The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the virtual Michigan International Speedway for LSRTV's coverage of the 2016 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, the FTC Michigan 95, coming to you next for the Irish Hills of Michigan right here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. We're happy to have you topside with us, alongside with myself, Evan Pizzoco, as always, joined by our driver analyst at the booth, Brian Macklin, and LSRTV's producer, Cisco Scarmuzza, downstairs, pushing the buttons in the production trailer and bringing us to you tonight. We're ready for the 13th round on our 2016 Cup Series campaign, and we're happy that you're joining us here tonight from Brooklyn, Michigan, the FTC Michigan 95, just a couple of minutes away from heading down trackside and getting tonight's competition underway. Brian, 95 laps, 190 miles at a very fast 2-mile D-shaped oval. It's a very fun track. We saw an extremely competitive race here on LSRTV just one night ago with the Ascors Pro Geek Consulted Cup Series, and RSR always brings the show to the racetrack, so we're looking forward to this one as well.
Yeah, I absolutely believe this is going to be as competitive, if not more of a competitive race than we saw here with the Ascor Series here last night. These guys are going to be having a lot of fun out here tonight. They also have the new digital dash in these Sprint Cup Series cars, so they have some new toys to play with inside their cockpit tonight, and just a lot going on here tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun with the tire wear and the high speeds. Like you mentioned, these guys are going to go off into the corners at sometimes as close as 210 when they hit the end of the straightaway, so you're going to see a lot of action. When the tires start falling off, you're really going to see people coming and going. When you have high speeds like this on a track that has the abrasive surface that this track has, it can really set up for some tire fall off, and that will make things very interesting to see who can manage their tires the best over the long run.
The qualifying session in the works. Now let's talk about the championship standing through 12 races in 2016. Second segment underway just 1 week ago. A couple of new names hopping into the series as well, continuing into tonight's race. Tonight, round number 13 through 12, you have Anthony DeBarro at the top of the championship standings. One of 3 drivers with 2 trips to victory lane. He's at the top of the pile. 7 top 5s, 10 top 10s. He, along with Eckrich and Rollo, the drivers with 2 wins. You've got Daniel Eberhardt second in the points. Scott Eckrich up there, Nick Silver, Dwayne Vincent. All your usual suspects are having a fairly solid 2016 campaign. And not to discredit how important these races are, Brian, there's still plenty of drivers trying to get points and trying to get wins to fight for the championship. But with so many competitive and very strong drivers doing what we expect them to do, run up front and win races, it's kind of hard to start to pick and choose who's really outrunning the rest of the field. I mentioned you got 3 guys with 2 trips to victory lane as opposed to somebody breaking away from everybody else. So really, for those guys, and maybe for us when we talk about that, we're really just waiting to get down to chase time. Outside of those names, though, is the people that really need to take advantage of this middle portion of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing you have to look at is there's so much competition in this series that you can't necessarily bank on getting into the chase based on points. We have enough drivers in this series that can get up there and win races where we could actually have 16 unique different winners before we get to the chase time. So you can't just rely on getting good finishes in top 5s and top 10s and pointing your way into the chase. You need to go out there and try to charge and challenge for a victory. And like you said, with this summer stretch, there's a whole mess of different tracks tracks coming up. We're going to a road course here in a couple of weeks. We have Michigan here. We have Daytona coming up. That's a wild card race in its own. There are so many opportunities for different drivers and different faces to get up front and make a name for themselves and to try to get themselves into victory lane. They have to capitalize on this summer stretch.
And I believe Daytona and then the road course race in Sonoma are going to be the next two ones. Qualified, about set to wrap up. We'll go trackside for tonight's opening ceremonies.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
We're back live from Michigan International Speedway. Drivers roll from the grid. Let's take a look at your LSRTV starting grid. Scott Eckrich, pole position with a 38.576. He'll pace the field to the green flag along with Carl Shedd on the front row, P2. Corbin Hemstreet going to start third, Anthony DeBarlo to fourth, and David Washington going to round out your top five with Dwayne Vincent, Stephanie Baranek, Chad Cole, Rhett McBride, and Dan Murray inside of the top 10.
Positions 11 through 20 go as following: Daniel Eberhardt, Greg Evans, Joseph Tice, Thomas George, Tim Matthews is 15th, Matt Lacrosse, Todd Witkowski, AJ Browning, Steve Goschalk, and Kyle Taraska round out the top 20.
21st position on back in a qualified order. You got Lionel Calisto, you got Sean Casto, Ross Cato, Shane Newey, Nick Silver, Kevin Linden, Nicholas Hurlow, Jose Tellis, and Adam Blattle back through 30th, 31st through 33rd. The final cars to take a time in qualifying: Sean Valley, Doug Roth, and John Fowler. And the provisionals tonight, 34th through 42nd, going to be handed out to Mike Kelly, Mitch Rollo, Scott Stenzel, Joey Jatita, Tom Dryerly, Mitchell Priester, Nathan Little, Douglas Wyatt, and Josh Cheney. So just one car shy of a full field. They're going to go 42 deep and 21 rows down into turns number 3 and 4. The final time as we get set to get tonight's contest underway. We're happy to have you with us right here on LSR TV and iRacing Live. The pace car, you're going to make the sharp left-hand turn down, coming off for the quarter. The field in the hands of Scott Eckrich, coming to the green flag, round number 13, and the FTC Michigan 95 green.
Green flag underway here at Michigan, and Scott Eckrich gets a really good start as they head off into turn 1. He's already got about a 3 or 4 car length advantage over the number 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. He's going to move into the second position. He's got Anthony DeBarro right on his tail, and then he's also got Carl Shedd on the outside battling with Dwayne Vincent as they work off turn 2. They're double file from about the 4th position on back, trying to battle for position as they work down the back straightaway.
A big gap for the race leader down at the first turn. Top 3 single file. That battle for 4th, though, continues on behind. On the outside, the number 45 of Carl Shedd started to the outside of the front row. The Aegis machine trying to be able to find a spot in lawn. And Dwayne Vincent, who started P6, going to get into a position. Lap number 1 draws to a close. Caution flag. Going to fly behind the field. Problems, it looks like, coming out of turn number 4. At least one car is way down and out of speed. That's Tom Dryerling, and I believe the problem's going to come from the 06 Chevrolet.
Yeah, looking back at that now, you see that the 06 was going off into turn 3, and he just got a little loose going off into the corner. He stepped out, and the 16 machine had nowhere to go, ran right into the back of him. The number 16 of Nathan Little just, there's no time to react when something like that happens, and he just ran right into the back of the 06, turning him sideways and bringing out our first caution of the night. And just one of those unfortunate set of circumstances. There's a little bit of damage on the back bumper of the 06, but there is heavy damage on the number 16 machine.
Definitely a strange incident. Again, they went down into turns 3 and 4. I'm not sure if Dryling had some sort of a penalty, or it looks like really the car just got really sideways based on the wheel movement. He got that wheel turned all the way to the right, and he just lost so much speed. Well, it does look extremely exaggerated as Nathan Little comes flying in and pounds him, and it's some pretty severe damage on those cars, especially for being lap 1 in the race. I don't think there was much more than Nathan Little could have done there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I really don't think there was, because they were at a high rate of speed going off into turn 3, and when a car loses that much momentum that quickly, it's so hard to react, and that's just one of those things where you really can't guess where the car is going to end up going. You just have to get on the brakes and pray that you can avoid them, and unfortunately in that situation he just wasn't able to, and I'm sure the two of them will be fine. They'll get back out there and try to get something out of this race. It's just unfortunate for it to happen, but back up front, I was really impressed with how well Scott Eckers jumped out. Even though it was just a lap, he jumped out really quick and got a big advantage on these guys. I'm not sure if that was the advantage he got on the restart or if he just has that much speed in the car. He was the fastest in practice, and he did qualify on pole, so he's certainly got a good car here tonight. And just based off that one lap that we got, he's definitely showing it.
So an early caution flag to make it a little bit longer until we can say officially get this one underway. A slow start leaves us behind the American Childhood Cancer Organization, a pace car. 3 laps in. If you weren't with us 1 week ago, let's give you the results from the round number 12 from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Joseph Tice went on to win the race after starting in the number 3 position, took home the checkered flag, just leading 3 laps with Stefan Marinak coming home behind in the number 2 spot. Greg Evans finished 3rd in that one. Tim Matthews 4th, and Rhett McBride came home inside of the top 5. The rest of the top 10 finishers included Nick Silver, David Washington, Dwayne Vincent, Ross Cato, and Kevin Linden through those positions. And again, Tice with the win. Another one of the drivers who still sits outside of the top 10 in the championship standings. But when you look at that in the context of, well, where would that put somebody when you're going to look at the picture of obviously trying to get wins and trying to get yourself onto the championship grid, it is going to be a much better story because, again, we are looking at a points championship as the lights go off on top of the pace car. And really, for the entire opening 12 rounds of this season and through tonight's round 13, we're looking at the regular championship standings. Give it 5-6 weeks, Brian, then we're going to start to talk about the chase grid. So the two can be a little bit deceiving. He's not up there now, but when we start to look at chase qualifications, that win, as we mentioned briefly in our pre-race show, is going to be really important. More important, I'd say, than getting a bunch of consistent second-place finishes is getting that ticket punched. And then maybe when you get to the chase, wins are going to be of an utmost important, but that would be a good place to knock out consistent finishes. For a lot of these guys that just want to get that weight off their shoulders and win one of these things, we've had a couple of names that have gotten close, but no cigar.
Yeah, absolutely, you're right, and it's such a relief to get into the chase by winning a race. I started this season last year racing with these guys, and it is so stressful trying to get out there and race for points, but also know that if you win the race, you can get in. Before I ended up leaving the series and becoming part of the team up here in LSRTV, I was trying so hard to win races, and it just didn't seem to work out for me, and I really think a lot of my problems were self-inflicted, and that's just one of those things, but these guys have to work hard, and they have to try to dig deep to try to win and to be consistent just in case they can get in on points.
The base car and get it knocked down. We're going to get the first restart coming off of a caution flag. And this one, a pole sitter, Scott Eckridge. He retains the inside of the front row coming off for the final turn. American Ethanol, green flag, back in the air. And he'll lead across the start finish on it. Not a good start to the outside for him Street. He'll have that on it. Navarro go up the inside, take P2. And here comes Dwayne Vincent for third.
Dwayne Vincent, another one of those guys, got a really good restart right there. He moves into the 3rd position, clearing Corbin Hemstreet as they work through turns 1 and 2. They're single file through the first 4 positions. You have to look back to Carl Shedd in that 5th position. He's battling hard with Stefan Marinak in the number 99 machine as they work down the back straightaway, trying to hold off the number, it's actually the number 98 machine. of David Washington on the outside line right now, trying to battle hard with Carl Shedd. You got Chad Cole coming on the bottom as they work off turn 4. This is now a 3-wide battle as they come to the start-finish line. Here comes Daniel Eberhardt.
Eberhard, he wants to join the party, and he's going to sit to the inside and, in fact, get a spot. Chad Cole did have him beat out for the number 8 position at the line. That Ani almost clear. 2 wide, 2 rows deep. Coming off for the second turn. Outside, though, with the momentum and a squeeze to the top of that 45 of Carl Shedd, trying to keep his machine down. But that on to David Washington. He breaks free and clear into what's going to be the number 5 spot. Almost in front of it all with Stefan Marinak. He can't quite get away. And a big gaggle of cars now forming. They're 2 wide, 3 rows back.
And Carl Shedd is fighting hard still on the inside line. He's trying to hold these guys off. He gets up in front of the number 99 machine of Stefan Marinak. Now they're 3 wide as they go down the front straightaway. He went high, and Stefan Marinak looked in the middle for a moment. He backed out of it. Daniel Eberhardt now down on the bottom, trying to challenge Carl Shedd for what would be that number 6 position. As he come off turn 2, he's not able to get the run he needs. Carl's going to have the momentum off the corner. He's going to clear Daniel Eberhardt as they work down the back straightaway. Daniel has to get in line. He shuts the door on Stefan Marinak, and now here comes Chad Cole on the bottom. These guys racing hard here on lap 7. Chad Cole dives it to the bottom of the track, tries to get underneath the number 90 machine, but not able to do it. He's going to have to now hold off the number 99 machine of Stefan Marinak as they work off turn 4.
And they say side by side coming off of that turn. Still on the outside is that number 9 on to Ford of Stefan Marinak. He started this race at 11th, made up a lot of spots at an opening stint, but has kind of been stuck out of line here. At the moment, he needed Chad Cole duck to the bottom. He might try to slot out. No. And when that outside is left open, the outside, a huge run off of the corner. Marinak not only going to get clear, but here comes the Toyota Matt Lacrosse as well. And he wants to join in on the fun and go to the top of the racetrack as well. And now it almost looks like Chad Cole in the preferred racing group as he follows Marinak off the corner, and he's able to hang on. All of this going on behind about 2.5 seconds off of the battle for the race lead. Scott Eckrich under attack, the Don of Anthony DeBarro, just 1/10 of a second off, down in turn number 1.
Anthony DeBarro has been getting closer and closer to the back bumper of that number 70 machine for the last 3 or 4 laps. He gets a really good run from the center of the corner off and is able to carry that momentum down the straightaways, and he's able to close right up on the back bumper of Scott pretty much every single time as they go down these long straightaways, and then Scott's able to dive it off into the corner and get a little bit of an advantage on him, and then he loses it all again in the middle of the corner. You see right here, once again, Scott drove off into the corner really good. Anthony DeBarro got a good run through the center, and he's gaining a little bit of time, not very much right now, but still has a little bit of momentum down the front straightaway, trying to use that momentum to his advantage to get a run on him. Just not able to capitalize on it quite yet. You've also got Corbin Hemstreet and Dwayne Vincent sitting right behind them. And Evan, this is a Dwayne Vincent kind of racetrack, an old track with an old beat-up surface where the tires are really going to come into play. He started off really strong here tonight. He qualified 6th, and he's sitting up there in the 4th position. I have to believe he's really just waiting for this race to fall into his hands.
And patience also an interesting thing. And, you know, it's kind of funny to talk about somebody who likes a racetrack that's a little bit physical, a little bit aggressive, and then also mention that they do that while being patient, but it is exactly that thing. And he waits right now. Again, started to the outside of row 3 P6. Shouldn't have been the best starting position. Did end up in the top 3 early. Sits P4 right now. And again, he's right there. Problems behind the leaders once again. This time at lap number 11. Second caution flying it away on tonight. And big junk in the middle of 1 and 2. It looks like involved in this one. The 91 is Steve Gottschalk. And the number 30 car also down in the grass.
Yeah, trying to see what happened. It looks like that began with the number 91 machine as they were going off into turn 1. He actually got help from behind. Mitch Rollo got into the back of him as they went off into turn 1, got him turned sideways, and then chaos ensued in the middle of the corner. You see the number 30 machine come in late and have some contact as well. So just one of those deals where there was a miscommunication on the braking points between Steve Gottschalk and Mitch Rollo, and unfortunately the number 30 machine was an innocent bystander that got caught up in it.
Yeah, and that's what many of these incidents are, is somebody who just has nowhere to go. The second look again saw you how all of that unfolded. A little bit of contact. Everybody wants to get as high as they can into the corner. Gottschalk was sideways. Might have been able to hang on to it, but again, he got nicked by Tim Matthews on the outside of the racetrack. and at that point it was just terrible timing, as again the caution was out before that additional contact came with the 30. I think really there was just absolutely nowhere on track for the number 30 machine of Josue Tellez to go. And it then goes from a one-car accident really spiraling into a two-car crash. So pace car going to stay up on a racetrack this time. Your leaders coming down first time. Green flag pit stop, rather the caution flag pit stops on the night. Led by Eckrich, and they'll be side by side down pit road.
Yeah, they're racing on pit road like they would be if they were racing on the racetrack under green. Anthony DeBarro tried to sneak to the inside of Scott Eckrich coming on the pit road. He has to get back in line in order to get to their pit boxes safely and cleanly. And these guys, I don't think you're going to see any games on pit road today. I think it's going to be 4 tires all night long. The tires mean so much at this racetrack, you can't afford to take 2. Scott Eckrich slides through his box. He had to back up. He's going to have to take a little bit extra time on pit road. It's going to be interesting to see. Does he try the 2-tire call? No, he's not. He's going to do the 4 tires like I thought. He's going to lose a little bit of time, probably going to lose the lead as they come off pit road. It looks like the 69 machine, Corbin Hemstreet, is going to easily win the battle off. Dwayne Vincent will come out second, then Anthony DeBarro. Then you have Carl Shedd. You have to go way back to about the 6th position, maybe further back to find Scott Eckrich. It looks like he might be in the 5th position. We'll have to wait for scoring to update, but he did lose a ton of time on pit road, and that's going to hurt him when it comes to track position when they get back going.
Yeah, down to the number 1 pit stall. Think it would be a good spot to be in. 4 tires and off, and he does end up a little bit at the back of the line. So in front of Eckrich now, Carl Shedd, Anthony DeBarro, Dwayne Vincent. In front of them, you have the 41 of Adam Blattle, who does not come down pit road for service. And then you're going to find Corbin Hemstreet in the number 69, who came in and elected to go with the 4-tire stop. It was the first driver off of the pit lane. Curious to see if we will see that 41 come down pit side this time. It looks like Blattle's going to do just that. A strategy move sometimes done in an attempt to pick up a bonus point, but Brian, your leaders had crossed the start-finish on pit road before the 41 did, so he was scored 9th the last time by, so he's not going to be able to get the benefit of the bonus point, but I think that doesn't change the strategy play here, which is pitting and then go to the back of the pack for the restart.
Yeah, this looks like somebody that just didn't want to be up in the mess this early on in the race, and just like you said, he stayed out so that he didn't have to deal with pit road because the pit road was so congested. We don't have any lap cars other than Christopher Hurlow prior to that accident, so you've pretty much had the entire field coming to pit road, and that was probably just a case where he didn't want to be down there dealing with it. He decided to stay out a lap. He's going to come in now, get his service. He'll be at the back, and he'll be safe. I'm really interested to see what happens, though, with the number 70 machine. Now that he's had this mistake on pit road, he's going to be back in the 5th position. It's going to be the first time all day that he has not led this field, so it's going to be very interesting to see how his car reacts. He's been fastest pretty much in everything so far here today at Michigan, so we know he's got a good car. Now he's really going to have to work for it because he's got 4 very strong guys in front of him that are going to be trying to hold him off as hard as possible on this next restart.
And the restart's key here as well at Michigan, kind of similar to Pocono in the fact that it can get pretty crazy. We haven't seen it yet. In fact, they've been actually quite diplomatic down to turn 1, sorting things out, getting single filed out in front of the field. We've kind of seen people get jammed up at around P5 on the racetrack. Curious to see what Hemstreet's going to do. He'll be the control car for this restart with the pace car ducks down, and I'm interested to see what Scott Eckrich is going to do because we'll be back to the inside of row number 3. The pace car down, and Hemstreet going to go on the drop of the hammer. Green flag back in the air from Michigan, and he leads by 3 cars at the start-finish line.
His teammate Anthony DeBarro also got a really nice restart. Dwayne Vincent did not get going like he was hoping. It seems like that's a theme with that outside row, the outside front row, just not able to get up through the gears the way the leader is, the way the inside line is. Maybe a little bit of a lack of grip there. That doesn't matter right now. Off turn 2, we have a little bit of a loose moment for Chad Cole. He got sideways coming off 2. He's going to give up a ton of position as they work down the back shortly. He's at the bottom of the track trying to hold these guys off, but off pace right now, trying to get back up to speed. Loses a ton of track time. Here comes the 21 machine now having a close moment. He's down on the apron. These guys are all over the place here.
Yeah, spread it out. It's a wide front stretch. Get used to it, and the speed's up there. How about you for your race leader who doesn't have any draft? 2:07 to turn number 1. And those that are drafted up on the back of somebody else go even faster than that. Dwayne Vincent, he wants to get it happen. Navarro takes the line away, coming off at turn 2, and we are single file, 1 through 9, down the back straightaway. Challenge between the 2, Rhett McBride, and the 18, Todd Witkowski for 10.
Yeah, these guys are racing really hard right now. The 2 right now has the control of that position, trying to hold off the number 18 machine behind him. He actually just made the pass and is going to be taking that 10th position away. Thomas George right behind them as well, trying to work his way up inside the top 10. He started 14th and currently since 12th, trying to find his way up into the top 10. He had a good run going last week at Charlotte until he got caught up in one of those late race incidents, just not having the year that he's been looking for. I spoke to him the other day, and he said it's extremely frustrating because he knows he has fast cars pretty much every week, but he just has a hard time making it to the finish in these races. He really just needs to start getting some finishes, and it looks like he's going to need a win if he's going to get into the chase this year. So they're working really hard to try to get him up towards the front to give him that opportunity. He's trying to hold off the number 97 machine of Lionel Callisto, who got a really good run through the middle of the corner, now works to the outside of him down the front straightaway, trying to get up to, alongside the outside quarter panel of the number 24 machine to see if he can't try to pinch him down in turn 1. He's there as they work through 1 and 2. He's going to have the advantage, and looks like he's going to have the momentum as they come off turn 2 to take that position away from Thomas.
We're going to find out also another battle more towards the front of the field. Scott Eckrich got a run on the 13 to Dwayne Vincent. He ducks at a line to turn 3, takes away the inside lane, which really isn't down on that white line. They run about 1 seam up, you see, in between that bottommost and second to bottom seam of the racetrack, maybe 6 or 7 feet off the line. Problems in front, though. Corbin Himstreet, your race leader, way out of shape, but he's in victory lane. A move that might keep him out of victory lane, though, as he got real loose coming off of the final turn. He caught the fence, came down the racetrack, and he kind of slid across that pit road wall. Left side damage, no caution, and he loses tons of time and gives up the race lead to now Anthony DeBarro.
Yeah, he hit that wall pretty good when he was sliding through the grass, trying to hang onto the car. I have to give him kudos to that. He did an incredible job at 150 miles an hour driving through the grass, which is essentially like driving on ice. To hang onto that car and keep it straight and get it back out onto the track, but unfortunately he did make contact with that inside wall, which is going to hurt the car pretty substantially, I would have to believe. He's probably definitely going to need a caution if he's going to have any chance to get this car going back in the right direction. Just one of those really unfortunate set of circumstances. That's how loose this setup is, though. I actually drove this setup the other day in the NASCAR iRacing series, and it is very difficult to handle, especially once the tires start to fall off. And when you're out front and you have people on your rear bumper like that and you're taking the air off your spoiler, it can be that much more difficult to hang on to. So that's probably what happened there. He was just pushing really hard. He had the 9 pretty close behind him coming off the corner, took the air off his spoiler, got him sideways, and unfortunately for him, ended his night pretty badly, or more than likely ended his night. But Scott Eckrich now took advantage of that and has moved back up into the 2nd position, and he's closing in on the rear bumper of Anthony DeBarro. They're reigniting the battle they had just a little while ago before that last caution came out, and he is ready to pounce, trying to take that lead back.
Yeah, Eckrich, he did a good job again. Restarted P5 and is in P2 right now. And I thought that Dwayne Vincent really was going to put a move on him before he was able to get up to the number 1 spot. Again, the 13 ended up getting jumped on by a couple of guys behind him. David Washington now 3rd. Daniel Eberhardt moving up to the number 4 spot. But there's going to be a battle for the race lead. We're not all that far from it. 21 laps behind us from Michigan International Speedway. And Eckrich back on the bumper. Anthony DeBarro, a fast car, but maybe not a P1 car at the moment. And the battle for the race lead is bringing the nominated David Washington into the conversation. It's now a 3-car battle down the back.
Yeah, Scott went high in 1, thinking he could squeeze to the outside of the number 9 machine. He was not able to do it. He had to check the car up just a little bit. That brings the number 98 into the picture. 3-car battle race lead. Scott Eckrich car as we speak, trying a car length off of Anthony DeBarro. To see if he can corner, though. Number 69 machine. Off that rear, make him slide around a little bit and then maybe take advantage. Off turn 4.
Couple the 18, that's Chad Cole actually going on for 11. Kyle Taraska in that mixed battles going on. About 3 aggressive dive in turn 1, and Scott Eckridge now in a spot where the 70, we saw the move by David Washington. Washington saw when these guys started the battle, got up to him and started going hard, and it was an aggressive move that he just made, Brian, trying to get the P2. Eckridge really not doing that. He's just kind of following DeBarro and waiting.
You almost have to wonder if maybe he's just waiting for the tires to fall off. We talked about patience on this track. You have to be patient and you have to manage your tires. It kind of makes you think maybe that's what he's doing here. He knows he's got a fast car. He was fastest in practice. He qualified on pole. He led early on in this race. So you have to believe maybe he's taking his time to make that move. So that he doesn't end up using his car up. As you see, he gets really close to the bumper of Anthony DeBarro, again working through turns 3 and 4. He's not giving Anthony any room to breathe, that's for sure. He might be being patient as far as trying to take the lead away from him, but he's not giving Anthony DeBarro to breathe at all. Side by side for the lead as they work through turns 1 and 2. Now, he's not being patient anymore. He's trying to make that move as they come off turn 2. Still not quite able to take the lead. Anthony DeBarro has the run down the back straightaway.
And Eckridge right to the bumper. Does this open up the door for Washington? Looks to the inside, and Eckridge takes the line away. Could have been a little bit of a move to the inside of DeBarro, but I think that was a little bit more of a reactionary move when he saw the 98 peek to the inside. What that did do, though, is it took away the line he wanted. He's now running the defensive line, and all the way to the apron. Wherever the 98 goes, that's where the 70 will go, top to bottom and back up to the outside wall. A whole lot of give in here, and right to the left rear quarter panel. Nobody gonna give anybody anything else. It's a whole lot of take rather for the number 2 spot, and Anthony DeBarro, while he's enjoying watching it behind him, he needs to try to get away while this happens.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to be capitalizing on this and trying to drive away, and he's doing so. He's got about a car length and a half advantage over the number 70 machine. He was able to capitalize when Scott had to make that defensive move down in turn 3 about a lap ago to try to hold off the number 98 of David Washington. He was able to get a little bit of an advantage on these guys. Now he's opened it up as they cross the stripe. It looks like he's going to have about a 2/10 advantage over the number 70 of Scott Eckridge. Not very much in terms of how close these guys are on the racetrack, but that's the biggest advantage that a leader has had in this race in quite some time. Although Scott Eckridge did a really good job through turns 1 and 2 that time to close that gap back up. He wasn't running a defensive line trying to hold off the number 98 that time, so he was able to hit his marks exactly like he wanted to. And here he comes once again, setting his sights on the number 9 machine, trying to get back to the race lead, or at least trying to challenge him and pressure him into maybe making a mistake. We've seen him stay extremely close to the number 9 machine pretty much all night long since he's been back behind him, just trying to put pressure on him and trying to see if he can't make him make a mistake, waiting for that moment to happen.
We still sit with 37 of the 42 cars that started this race on the lead lap, with the exception of the 30 of Josue Tellez, who we mentioned was involved in an earlier accident. Everybody else is still out on the racetrack. Steve Gottschalk on pit road. He's heavily damaged 41st. Same story with Corbin Hemstreet on the pit lane. But you have Christopher Hurlow 1 lap down in 39th, and Adam Blattle 1 lap down in 38th. And then, as I mentioned, P1 through 37 still battle for position on the lead lap. Almost a stalemate now. It looked like this was going to blow wide open. DeBarro had control of the field not shortly after the restart. Eckridge made his way up very quickly. David Washington got right there very quickly as well. And now they've run, that time by included, within 0.3 of a second of each other for at least the last 7 consecutive times around.
Yeah, and you have Daniel Eberhardt and Dwayne Vincent hanging in there too, right behind these guys, just creeping into the picture. It looks like they've been getting a little bit closer the last couple of laps. I'm hearing that Daniel was Daniel was David Washington, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding what's going on. David Washington has had one of the fastest cars here the last several laps, but Daniel Eberhardt, Dwayne Vincent, they're hanging in there too, right behind these guys, just trying to sneak into the picture, doing everything they need to do. You have to also wonder, this is a 95-lap race. They still have over 60 laps to go in this thing, about 65 laps. Will we see any short pit strategy in this thing tonight with the massive tire fall-off that you're going to see? Since the drop of the green flag, these guys have already dropped off almost 2 full seconds from what they can run out here on fresh tires. So you're seeing just how much the tires are falling off. You have to believe they're going to want to come to pit road to get tires pretty soon.
Yeah, 31 laps in now of competition, and again, your leaders managed to stay out of pit road for the earlier caution flags in this race, and eventually when they came down, everybody came down together. We've been green since that point, and as the tires begin to wear off, now almost 18 laps removed from when we put the fresh rubber on, Dave Washington's tired of waiting around, and he'll make the slide jump up off the corner, get the job done. Looked like a big head of steam for Eckrich, not as much momentum as I thought, but he'll have enough to get a nose back to the inside, and right back door to door. And just like that, he's back P2 as David Washington cross him back up. Can't get the car rotated in time, and he'll let him know, though, that he's there. Beautiful move, though, by Eckrich to maintain P2.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he might have let David go to get that run down the back straightaway so that he could then charge him down in turns 3 and 4, and it worked out perfectly for him. He was able to get the spot back, but here comes David Washington again as they work through turns 1 and 2. He gets to the inside, almost makes contact with the number 70 machine, had to check up a little bit. Now, Scott almost gets into the wall. That checks all of these guys up and allows Anthony DeBarro to get out to about a 6 or 7 car length advantage. Here comes Dwayne Vincent to the bottom. He took advantage of this. He moves into the 4th position, passing Daniel Eberhardt. Now he's battling with David Washington as they work through turns 3 and 4. He's trying to take away P3. Oh, contact! He's in the wall! Hard into the wall goes the number 13 machine. No caution yet because neither of the cars are turned around, but a huge moment for David Washington and the series champion Dwayne Vincent here coming off turn 4. Hard racing went wrong right there for those two.
I mean, I don't think there's much else you can say. I don't really think Dwayne Vincent got loose. I think he was trying to get up, but he just misjudged. I think a simple mistake from, again, as you mentioned, a series champion, one of the more veteran drivers here in the race tonight, and I think that's just a mistake. It's not going to make the 98 feel any better. Dwayne Vincent, I think, got the worst of it because he has lots of engine damage. It is going to cost David Washington, who arguably had one of the sportier cars inside of that top 3 battle, tons of time as he is now forced down pit road at a turn 4 at lap number 34 to come in and get serviced. And through all of that, somehow Anthony DeBarro is now a second in front of a battle for P2 that sees just Eckrich and Eberhardt left standing. And up the inside, you get to see the 97 come into the picture. That's a lap machine, not a factor, with fresh tires and both into the outside fence. Giving it everything they can. Eberhardt to the inside. And here comes Marinax, number 99.
Yeah, you can tell the tires are really starting to fall off for these guys, and the one person that's loving this more than anything is Anthony DeBarro. He continues to check out now that all this has happened. This all started with Dwayne Vincent and the number 98 machine of David Washington. And this all started when Scott Eckrich got tight off turn 2 and had to check up, and that checked everybody up. That allowed the 13 to get to the inside and make the moves he was making, and it just was a chain reaction effect that led to what we saw. And unfortunately for those guys, it has ended both their nights pretty badly. But now this battle for second place is pretty hot. You got Stefan Marinak on the bottom with the number 99 machine. He's able to get ahead of the number 70 of Scott Eckrich. He's trying to battle with Daniel Eberhardt, but not going to be able to do it. He slots in line between the two, and these guys are still a little bit over a second, almost a second and a half behind race leader Anthony DeBarro. He is just continuing to check out. The harder these guys race, the more they wear their tires out, and the more their tires are going to fall off. And Anthony DeBarro is just riding around minding his own business. He's not really doing anything to hurt his tires, so this is really working into his favor as this race continues to unwind.
You see the 45 at the inside of the racetrack, another driver fresh off of the pit lane. Carl Shed with fresh tires. He'll now probably have more speed than your leaders and start to pick their way around them, but they have yet to come down pit road after we completed service 13 laps into this race. This is going to give us a good idea of just how far we can go on fuel. Still shy of the halfway point. We sit almost 10 laps away from that direct point, and when we do, we'll give you your iRacing Midway race break, let you know what we learned at the opening 50% of this one, and what the keys to the race are going to be going from that point on through to the checkered flag. But we continue to stay out on the racetrack, and maybe not so much clean, but green nonetheless. Anthony DeBarro, a big fan of how all of that worked out, as you see the fresh tires coming into effect for both the 96 Rollo and Carl Shed, so the 90 and the 99 have to be vigilant here, watching out for those faster cars coming up behind them. But Anthony DeBarro now wide open, and arguably the two people involved in the accident may have been his two biggest challenges for the race on the night. And although they may not be behind the wall and they may not be done, effectively their nights were ended after that contact.
Yeah, absolutely. They may still be able to compete in this race, but they will not be able to compete for the race victory unless craziness were to ensue here to take out many people, they're not going to have a chance. But I'm really interested to see how this works out for Mitch Rollo and for Carl Shedd and some of these other guys that have already been to pit road. The 23, Greg Evans, is coming off pit road too. You see him merging on the back straightaway right behind our race leader and right behind Carl Shedd. So some of these guys starting to come to pit road and get those fresh tires. They're going to have a very big advantage over these race leaders, and the longer they stay out there, the more time they're going to lose to these guys that have already pitted. We could see this entire lineup shuffle up pretty much, or pretty badly, by the time the full cycle of pit stops is over. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Anthony DeBarro, though, still maintaining a 1.4 second advantage over second place, which is now Daniel Eberhardt, trying to just do what he can to keep Anthony DeBarro close. He has not got the speed at the moment to run him down, so he just needs to try to maintain the gap the best he can and either hope for a caution or hope for an opportunity to run him down when they finally come to pit road for pit stops.
And your leader's really stretching it out. The couple of the names that we've mentioned, we began to see, I think I saw the first car come down pit road about 9 laps ago from this point, around lap number 31 or 32. Your leaders are still out there. I don't think they're going to be able to make it on just one more stop that time by 40 laps down and 55 laps still to go. We're still shy of taking a halfway point in this race. I think you might be looking at a 2-stop strategy for your leaders, quite possibly a 3-stop strategy for the drivers that have already come down pit road. To keep it in mind, the people who have been in for service haven't necessarily been drivers that have been up front for the majority of the night. The only drivers who started top 10 that are down a lap right now, and again, most of the people that have pitted are down laps at the time being. You got David Washington, Dwayne Vincent, and Corbin Himstreet. Those 3 names have found problems. Carl Shedd is the interesting name to look at, the 45. Again, back on the lead lap in 28th. He's 37 seconds back. He has completed service after starting from second.
Well, and that's the interesting point for me right there. He's 37 seconds behind the race leader. When these guys have to come to pit road, they're going to be on pit road for at least 40 seconds. So I think right there you can already see that these guys are going to shuffle around and be able to take over the race lead. Where it's going to get interesting is when these other guys do come to pit road and they have the tire advantage, how quickly can they run these guys back down to get the race lead back? They're going to have their work cut out for them. And if a caution comes out once they've come to pit road and it cycles everything around, then they're going to be losing some of their track position and they're going to have to fight for it on the next restart. So there's a lot of factors that play into this type of a strategy. When you start seeing pit stops happen and you have guys that are electing to stay out longer, perhaps try to stretch the fuel a little bit further, or just have a differing strategy altogether, there's so many things that can happen you have to think about. It's a gamble. These guys staying out here right now, this is a gamble for them, because if a caution comes out, it could potentially ruin their nights and put them in a position they don't want to be in. They have to be really careful with their strategies and how they're going to play it, because it could go wrong at any given second.
Well, so far, so good for the Don. He leads the way. Your pole sitter, Scott Eckridge, talking about him again. He was spearheading that charge in a battle for second not all that long ago, and after it almost all broke out a couple of laps ago, he has fallen behind Eberhardt and Marinak. The Donnie Don have taken over that fight, and in fact, the number 90 machine, Daniel Eberhardt, back in front of Stanford Marinak at this time. The Donnie 9 had the race lead for one time around about 6 or 7 laps ago, but he's not going to give that position up. And then you got Eckridge 2 seconds back and forth. One name that we really haven't talked about at all tonight, about Kyle Taraska, the number 88 Chevrolet, started in 20th position, and he rides at a comfortable P5 right now, 3.6 back.
Yeah, he's done a very good job working his way quietly up through the field. Like you said, we have not really talked about him hardly at all, and he was one of those guys that last week at Charlotte, at one point, he was out front with a shot to win. Things didn't work out in his favor, and he did not end up getting the victory like he was hoping to. But having another very solid night here tonight at Michigan, trying to see if he can't capitalize on a very fast race car and put himself in a position to potentially win here tonight at Michigan. He's about 3.5 seconds behind these guys, having to try to run them down. He's probably going to need a caution if he's going to close in on them and have any shot at it. That's a very big gap to try to close in on those guys.
I think the key for somebody like him who started 23, even behind him, how about these two names? Mike Kelly started 34th, runs 8 right now, or Scott Stenzel in 36, who runs a 9th. They made up plenty of time. We're closing in on the halfway point. We'll take this opportunity to step aside and take a quick commercial break. More action from Michigan International Speedway when we return.
While lions are notorious for their voracious appetites, they spend a great deal of time feeding other creatures. In fact, lions will take great care to ensure there's plenty to go around. As you can see, they keep giving with utter ferocity. Bravo, lions, and bon appetit. Do good, be a lion.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Back live from the Irish Hills of Michigan at Michigan International Speedway, watching LSRTV's coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Established in 1982, Gary Mercer Trucking has the experience and expertise that your freight deserves. Our specialty is in over-the-road, less-than-road, and full truckload freight services between Ontario, Canada, at all points in the United States. Gary Mercer Trucking, proud title sponsor for the 2016 Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series. It's been a busy couple of laps here from MIS. A couple of drivers having some connection problems towards the back of the pack, some electrical issues. No issues for your race leader, though Anthony DeBarro continues to lead the way, now past the halfway point at lap number 51, and still a fluid situation with drivers off of the lead lap trying to get back out of pit road, but we are past halfway, so let's take a look at your iRacing and Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, the IMSA, and more. Danley Everhart runs P2 behind Anthony DeBarro, who paces the way by 0.6 of a second, with Stefan Beranek, Kyle Taraska, and Rick McBride running inside of the top 5. Mike Kelly in 6th. 7th is Todd Witkowski. Shane Ewing in the number 8 spot, with Joseph Tice, winner from 1 week ago, now inside the top 10 P9, and Scott Stenzel up 26 spots. He's in 10.
Matt Lacrosse right now is in the 11th position. Nick Silver sits P12. Scott Simley is 13th. Greg Evans, 14th. He's one of those drivers that came to pit road to get fresh tires. He sits 14th right now. Doug Roth is 15th. Carl Shedd is 16th. Josh Cheney is 17th. Michael Priester is 18th. And Thomas George is 19th. Running out the top 20 right now, Sean Boundy sits 20th in that number 34 machine.
21st right now is Ross Cato, Chad Cole 22nd, and the final driver on the lead lap, AJ Browning in 23rd. Now for the drivers' laps down, 1 lap down for 24th through 26th. That includes Mitch Rollo, David Washington, and John Fowler. 27th and 28th are 2 laps down. That's Douglas Wyatt and Christopher Hurlow. And 3 laps down is 29th and 30th, Scott Eckrich and Kevin Linden.
31st right now goes to Sean Casto. Tim Matthews is 32nd. Lionel Carlisto is 33rd. Dan Murray sits 34th. Nathan Little is 35th. Adam Blattle is 36th. Tom Drilling, 37th. All these drivers are multiple laps down, by the way. 38th right now is Joey Gattina. He is in the 38th position. 39th goes to Dwayne Vincent after having his incident with David Washington earlier on. Corbin Hemstreet sits 40th. He has ended his night after his accident as the race leader. He will be 40th. 41st goes to Steve Gottschalk, and rounding out this 42-car field, Jose Tellez. He finishes 42nd here tonight. As this has been your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. You can use the LSRTV promo code by entering PR-2016 LSRTV when you register for a new iRacing membership to get the late model free of charge, along with 13 cars and 14 tracks included with the first-time subscription.
So now 51 laps in, and we move to the final 45 laps of contest here tonight. Did we still await a trip down pit road for many of your leaders? But as of a couple of laps ago, we did have a change for the race lead. Your at-time race leader has come down pit road for service and fresh tires on aboard with Anthony DeBarro. He's now back out on the racetrack, and Rhett McBride leads the way.
And Rhett McBride, one of those guys that still has not come to pit road, sitting out there with about a 3.2 second lead over last week's winner, Joseph Tice, sitting P2 right now. Several of these drivers have elected to stay out. Greg Evans, however, he was one of those drivers that did come to pit road earlier on, and when this all cycles through, he's going to take the race lead. He was about 13 seconds behind Anthony DeBarro when he finally came to pit road. It's going to be interesting to see how far ahead he is of the number 9 machine when this all cycles around. Right now he sits P2, about 5.2 seconds behind Rhett McBride. A handful of those other drivers we were just speaking about, they have made their way to pit road. Rhett McBride, however, still out there on the racetrack on the old tires, trying to hang on for as long as possible. I almost think he's going for a one-stop strategy, as might many of these drivers that have stayed out at this point. From this point forward, they would only have to run 40 laps, and that would be as far as they just ran in this green flag stint alone. So they can certainly make it from here on one stop. So I think we're going from that 2 or 3 stop strategy down to just a one-stop strategy for some of these drivers.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking too, because DeBarro came in at about lap 53. It was almost right on the money, Brian, with 40 laps since we came off of the pit lane at lap number 13. You factor in some caution laps. That's basically the halfway point in this race. DeBarro still on the lead lap, back in the number 11 spot. Race control, we'll take a look at the running order and trying to see if any of the connection issues are going to cause a change in how this race is going to end up. And as that conversation continues over the race control chat, Greg Evans, your current unofficial race leader at Michigan International Speedway, will step back one more time here on LSR TV. You're watching our coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking and Sim Vibe by Sim Experience at LSR TV, the voice of sim racing.
For iRacing to get Le Mans is huge. I mean, this is a unique event, a unique track where, you know, half of the track is public road, so you can never test on it, you never get experience on it, and it's 8 miles in length, 4-minute lap time in a GT car. So, you know, even if you're here for an hour of testing, that's only 15 laps, and you're only going to see the corner 15 times that day. The first section going through the Dunlop area is pretty unique. You know, it's got elevation change and off camber. Then you go down Mulsanne into the chicanes, and you know, the straights are unbelievably long. It's a tricky track, and every year I've come here, being my 4th year, you learn something new every time.
We've wanted to add Le Mans to iRacing for a long time, and we've really been working hard towards it for the last 5 years. But really, things only came together in the last week leading up to this race, so it was a real scramble to put everything together. The majority of Le Mans is public roads, so when they're preparing for the 24-hour race, it's really the only time that we can visit to laser scan and photograph the track so that we can recreate it in iRacing. We work closely with the ACO to get essentially exclusive access to the facility and everything that we needed to get the laser scanning and photographic reference that we need to create the track. We were very fortunate to be at Le Mans at the most important time of the year and gain that experience of being there. And we're going to really do the best we can to put that into our work and making sure that the Le Mans in iRacing is the best Le Mans, the most exciting and accurate recreation of the track possible.
So we're back live in Brookline, Michigan at the virtual Michigan International Speedway, and this race is going to be under red flag conditions. Couple of cars still out on the racetrack, but at this point, tonight's FTC Michigan 95 is going to be declared as unofficial, and we'll break it down for you just a little bit, talking about a couple of drivers that were experiencing some electrical and connection problems back in the pack. I think about 12 drivers total. Between laps 44 and 47 or so, Brian, lost connection with the sim, and it was protocol into this race, knowing that there was a possibility that that was going to happen, that if that would happen, the race would be called at that point. And just like you would expect at an NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with a rain-out policy, and a good example, I think, to use is what we saw over the weekend with IndyCar at Texas. 44 laps into this race was 3 laps shy of taking a halfway point at lap 47. So much like in the IndyCar race, the field was frozen at lap 44. And again, we continued to talk about the race for a little bit longer after that, as race control wanted to look at the numbers and to make sure that that's the call they wanted to do, as opposed to making a call and then trying to go back on it and having a manual caution, if you will, put out at that point. So they let them race it out to see what the decision was going to be, but this race was stopped at lap 44. Effectively, the scoring concluded at that point. And just like the IndyCar race, not halfway, so this race is not going to be official. If we got 3 or 4 more laps in, you would have had a race winner, but not halfway, the race is unofficial. So this race is going to be either concluded or rerun at a later date, but technically speaking, it is going to be an unofficial running of the FTC Michigan 95. A tough break for the driver that qualified inside of tonight's field P4. Anthony DeBarro was in a good spot. If we do resume and we go back at green flag racing conditions at a later date, we would resume from lap 44, and he would be in front. The other option would to be restart the race entirely, and we don't have that information at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have to I want to start off by saying that this is a very good example of how well organized the Full Throttle Cup Series and real sim racing in general is when it comes to this kind of stuff. They know that this is something that could happen, and unfortunately it is something that can happen when you race on computers and you're racing with internet and things like that. And they were so well prepared for it. They have a system in place to make this transition easier for the drivers and easier for the people watching to understand exactly how this is going to work out. It's very much so, like you said, in relation to what you see in real life with the Sprint Cup Series, or like you saw with the IndyCars over the weekend at Texas. And it's just kudos to the admins and kudos to everybody that has a hand in real sim racing for being able to have such a great system in place to prepare these guys for this. And I look forward to what they do with this. I have a feeling what the ruling is going to be is that they're going to restart this race from where the connection issues began and let them conclude the race from that point forward, which would work very well for some of your drivers like Anthony DeBarro and a host of these others that were out there, because they're going to get a fresh start with fresh tires and be able to start this thing over and not lose any track position.
And the exact policy is, I gave a rough estimate, and we can go back and check the numbers. But the official policy for real sim racing and the quote-unquote rainout policy is if 20% of the field drops, so we had a 42-car field, so it would be 8 or 9 cars, more than 8 or 9 cars suffered from the connection issues. So you revert to the NASCAR rain rules. And again, we did not make it to the halfway point in this race. So at that point, this race is not going to be official. So next week, we believe, is going to be the rain out date and have an opportunity to rerun the FTC Michigan 95, either from the beginning. Resuming from lap 43 is going to be the official scoring loop end to this contest, 4 laps shy of the halfway point. Lap 43 is the official number we're being heard. So that would be the running order that we would go off of if we resume. There's also an option, as we said, to rerun the race entirely. That's going to be discussed by the admins and the drivers over the next coming days, and you can find out when and where and how tonight's FTC Michigan 95 is going to be run. It'll be right here back again on LSRTV and iRacing Live. If you want to find out when that will be, make sure to keep up to date on our website at livesimracing.com and facebook.com/livesimracingtv. That's where all of that information is going to be. But a tough break here tonight, an exciting race to the point that it got to, but things did not fall in our favor tonight. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up tonight's coverage from the Irish Hills of Michigan at this point. We look forward to rerunning the rest of this race at a later date. Also, Daytona, Sonoma, the next 2 races. So it's going to be an interesting and a fun couple of weeks, and we hope that you join us when we come back on air. Talking about those RSR dates, we got plenty more sim racing action coming up, and that entire broadcast schedule can be found on livesimracing.com, again, as well as our Facebook. And that is going to be the place to be to find the revised, televised information for tonight's contest. So, unfortunately, on that somber note, that's going to do it tonight from MIS. Do want to thank you all for tuning in. On behalf of everybody at LSRTV, we thank you for your continued support, and we hope to see you next time from Michigan. This has been LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Good night.
This copyrighted broadcast is presented under the authority of LSRTV LLC and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations and may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form, nor the accounts and descriptions of this event disseminated in any way without the express written permission of Live Sim Racing TV. LSRTV would like to thank its loyal fans for their continued support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.